Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could teach the gullible to never be so comfortable with lies they eat like comfort food? To disregard the bogus claims and pseudoscientific claims. Can you imagine just how much indeed the world would change? No more political predators playing on the populace with ilkas and plots to shift and kill metropolis. No more villains with the title in the Bible holding phony temper Bibles like the stuff they teach is vital. Imagine it was normal to have to prove a claim you make. And folks really feel ashamed to express some content that was fake. It's not to say we never make mistakes. It's just to say we go out of our way to show the evidence it takes.
Remain skeptical while you travel the road. The reason stay strapped with logic and fast. That's what it is, yo. Keep reality intact to help the truth grow. Question every claim, especially the ones you believe in. Remain skeptical while you travel the road. The reason.
All right, I always love that song.
It's great.
Anyway, so I want to welcome everyone to the award-winning TV show, Road to Reason, A Skeptic's Guide to the 21st Century. I'm David Tamayo, I'm president of Hispanic American Freethinkers, and today I have the honor, the pleasure, and the courage to have with me as a co-host, Larry Mendoza.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me as a co-host. I'm honored.
Well, today we're going to have a great show. We're going to be speaking with Chris Johnson, who is a filmmaker, an author, and an all-around great guy. And I think I want you to get to know him as I have gotten to know him, and I think you'll be very grateful for that. But before we do that, we're going to start with our typical person of the week, joke of the week, the
some announcements,
news analysis, and and everything. And because I'm a little blind, I go back to my glasses. So we'll follow with that tradition. So before I get started on that, I want to do happy birthday to someone very special, Graciela Priazera. She's a Brazilian citizen that is currently traveling throughout the United States, seeing this great country, stopping in different cities. She started in Dallas, Texas, and she's now in Washington, D.C., and she is with Karen Facciolo. And so these two ladies are fantastic. They're going around seeing all the different cities, and just wanted to wish Graciela a happy birthday, which was yesterday, and hope your travels are safe.
Happy birthday.
So why don't take the first announcement?
All right, first announcement is a pretty big one. We'll be talking about Reason Rally. Okay, so Reason Rally is scheduled for June 4th, 2016. So put that on your calendars. June 4th, 2016. In D.C., it's going to be at the Lincoln Memorial. Okay, it's going to be a different place than we had it last time, which was over at the mall.
And how many people are they expecting?
So they're expecting about 100,000 skeptics, secularists, atheists, agnostics, whoever. Reasonable people to show up in D.C. It's a free event, June 4th, and I believe the event goes for 3 or 4 days, correct?
Yes, it goes for 3 or 4 days, and they're having a... they're starting to put in all the speakers in there. So if you go to reasonrally.org, they'll start listing all the people that are going to be attending, and the list is going to be amazing. So you'll see who's already confirmed and all the other people that they're putting through in there.
Yeah, it's going to be...
Excellent. Anyone in the United States needs to come to Reason Rally 2016. There are ways of doing it. You can do it without... spending a lot of money, share, you can, road trip.
Yeah, road trip, get a bunch of friends together and chip in, and it's fun, and it should be a great time. There's a lot of great sponsors. Richard Dawkins Foundation, we've got Hispanic American Freethinkers is sponsoring.
Secular Student Alliance.
So, I mean, it's all the big players. It's like if you were there last in 2012?
2012.
If you were there in 2012 and you thought it was a blast, come in 2016 and let's make some noise in D.C. Let these politicians know that we are a huge and growing voting bloc as well. So
now, another quick announcement is for a shout out for the people in Florida. November 6th through the 8th, coming up next week, they are going to be having Free Flow. Free Flow is this amazing conference, the only atheist, the only secular, the only skeptic conference in Florida, and they're going to have amazing speakers. So if you're in Florida or nearby, or you just want a good excuse to go to Florida and get some sunshine now that the weather's starting to cool off a little, you get that tan ready for Thanksgiving. It's a great place to go. Free Flow in Orlando, November 6th August through the 8th, you're going to have Matt Dillahunty, Dan Barker, and Seth Andrews, and all these famous and amazing people.
Yeah, there's also one more guy going who's going to be a speaker, I believe.
We're going to talk about the bad things of that.
Some guy by the name of David Tamayo, I think, is also on the list of speakers. So,
I'll be there. And if you're there and you come in and you mention Road to Reason to me, I will give you a little free gift. So how about that?
Well,
just
incentive to watch the show and to go to free.
Come by and say hello, and who knows? That thing might be just a nice drink.
Yeah.
An alcoholic drink or something.
Hey, that's not bad. Free drinks are always a good thing.
Exactly.
So wonderful.
So, what other announcements do we have?
Okay, we got a couple more. So I wanted to let people know about this new program called Saved by Science. It's the founder is Rob Penzak, who's a producer and also a host on Road to Reason. He's starting this his project called Saved by Science in Richmond, Virginia. And basically, it's a mixture of kind of doing podcasts and events, and he's organizing a lot of different things with some of the local Richmond groups, like the Greater Richmond Humanist Association and the Richmond Reason and Rationalist, RRNA, Richmond Reason and Naturalist Association. That's who they are, and they're doing a lot of different events. For example, they recently had a critical thinking event that had both myself and David Tamayo as speakers, along with Tombstone, the Dead Man, and Peter Boghossian. So we had a great event there. He's also...
It's something that is very needed in the Richmond area.
Exactly.
So it's really a good thing. And we were just talking before the show that Rob has like the perfect wife.
She puts up a lot.
She puts up with a lot. And I try to keep my wife away from her because I don't want my wife to have such expectations and stuff for me. Although I don't know, she is amazing. So anyway,
well, real quick, on November 15th, there Andy Thompson, who is he's a psychologist at UVA, and he's also on the board of directors, I think, of the Richard Dawkins Foundation. He's going to be coming to Richmond as a Saved by Science event, and he will be giving a talk about why we believe in gods in the first half of the program, and that's going to be followed with a discussion concerning suicide, which I think is a very important type of discussion. You can see there, and that's going to be followed with Tad Bartley, who's the co-president of the Richmond Humanists, Reverend Alan Miles, who's a Unitarian minister, hospice chaplain, and host of Death Club Radio, and Shirley Ramsey, founder and chairperson of the Richmond branch of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So if you're in the Richmond area, November 15th at the Unitarian Church in Richmond, come by and check out this event. It should be pretty nice. It's
an amazing event. A lot of good conversation goes back and forth, and Rob is doing an amazing job there. I really tip my hat for all the work he's doing there.
He's been keeping busy, and he's got good things lined up, and there's going to be other events. So we'll keep you updated on these events here on Road to Reason as well.
Well, there is one other, I think, last announcement, and that is on December the 6th.
Yes.
We are going to be having a debate here live where people can call in, and then you can vote to see who won that debate. It's between Jesus and
Mr. Hankey, the Christmas poo, as you can see on there. It's going to be our holiday special, and it's going to be the gloves are off on this one, so call in, watch it. It's going to be great.
And if you don't know who either one of those two characters is, you can look it up in the internet.
On the internet, yes.
Because internet knows everything.
They know everything, right?
So December 6th, you got to call in. It's going to be really funny and really good.
Watch the show on the 6th. It'll be good.
All right, so news. We're running out of time.
Okay, so let's do the news. So real quick, I wanted to, and this is both the news and we also do a person of the week. And last time I did this show, I had a number of people of the week, which were the hacked Bangladeshi bloggers that were killed by Muslims in Bangladesh for blogging about atheism and secularism. Well, recently, I think it was this past week, it was followed by another death, and this time it was one of the editors, or I think a publisher of atheist and secular books. His name is Faisal Arefin Dipan. He was found, again, hacked to death for speaking, for supporting free speech, supporting secularism in Bangladesh. The interesting thing here is that, when I talk to a lot of people that criticize me for criticizing Islam, they always point to Bangladesh as being an example of a moderate Islamic country where, they're not terrorists and they don't, But here we have, if this is moderation, you know,
So the fact he chopped himself into little pieces, are you sure it wasn't suicide?
Yeah, well, you know, and anybody wanted to kill himself and hacked himself, it's like shooting yourself 5 times, right?
In the back.
In the back. But the most, you know, if that wasn't troubling enough, what's even more troubling is that the local police chiefs and the government are saying that these are all isolated incidences and they have nothing to do with each other. There's no correlation. And it's scary because it's really providing these people
a license to kill.
Yeah, a license to kill.
So,
you know, it's just a sad thing in Bangladesh, and who knows how many more deaths. I mean, these things
this
are
is what we
happening
find out.
since February. I think the first one was February, and there's been about 6 or 7 deaths, and all been hackings of secular bloggers and things like that.
Well, and part of the problem is that they compare Bangladesh with Saudi Arabia, where women can't drive or they can't vote, and so you see. But it is better. It is better. But the way is not so much is where we're going with it.
Right.
So Bangladesh is at this tipping point. Do we go and become Sharia law, or do we become, you know, join the West in Western democratic values?
And exactly, and freedom of speech should be a value that's affordable to everyone, regardless of where you're from. But again, you know, the ideology behind Islam is that it's extremely intolerant towards tolerance, and they don't like being criticized, and to the point where they will kill you. And we've seen this with not just in Bangladesh, but we've seen with Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who has a fatwa against her for speaking out. We've seen it with you know, the Theo van Gogh over in the Netherlands where he was murdered. They found a big, you know, knife in his chest with a note. You know,
so there would be no doubt.
You know, and I mean, it's just, you know, the fatwa against Rushdie, you know, that's still going on. I mean, it's just nonstop.
And that's the problem. That you know, the problem is in part of also is that the UN has recently selected Saudi Arabia to head its human rights committee. And there's a whole group of people saying, well, religion should have this privilege where it should not be criticized. It should not. Then
you have, you know, with the UN, all these blasphemy laws that are being enacted. Not just, you know, and it's like, no, blasphemy laws are, you know, victimless crimes. I mean, it's
a way for religion to protect itself
from criticism,
from the truth.
And if religion is, any religious belief is that strong, why does it want to censor criticism towards it? You know, it makes sense that if your religion is that strong, or that if your faith is that strong, criticism can only help it, in my opinion.
Any idea that welcomes criticism
is always good.
It's a good idea.
Right.
And that's the problem. You know, when the idea doesn't want to be criticized, when the followers of those ideas don't want anyone to question it or criticize it and just accept it, you know there's something wrong with that idea.
Right.
Yeah. Truth is not afraid to be questioned.
Absolutely. So.
All right,
you know, we'll see what happens. But let's move towards a more brighter, I think, note here. Do you want to go ahead? Or?
Go ahead.
All right, okay.
I'll let you do it.
All right, so we're moving on to the joke of the week, and then we're gonna go into a little break, and then we'll come back with Chris Sheldon. So the joke of the week is this: a man sees a boy with a box of kittens. The man goes over and says, "Oh, what cute kittens!" And the boy replies, "Yes, they're Christian kittens." About a week later, the man sees the boy again with the same batch of kittens, a little older this time. And he says, once again, he walks over and says, "My, those are just adorable kittens." And the boy replies, "Yes, they are atheist kittens." And the man asks, "Wait, weren't they Christians before?" And the boy looks at the man and says, "Yeah, but they have their eyes open now." So,
I thought it was funny.
All right, so we're going to cut to a quick break, and we're going to come back with Chris Johnson, and we'll have an awesome conversation. So see you in a bit.
A critical thinker is in a frame of mind of always questioning everything, including things they don't necessarily want to question. You may have done some research and satisfied yourself on a position you're sure is right. Good. Now, after a month or two of that, go look at some research that opposes your point of view or challenges the position you've taken. You can even look into it with the idea of poking holes in their arguments if you want, but it would be better to just have an open mind and read it as though you'd never heard or seen anything on the issue before. You may be very surprised what you learn, and if you're doing this right, you will be. Always be open to opposing points of view and counter-arguments. That's what critical thinking is all about. And now you know.
Preventing wildfires. That's all Smokey wants for his 70th birthday.
Thank you, dear. Well, you're very supple. Just like I was at your age. Back then, I was a sex expert. Used to call me the buttered biscuit. I know about birth control, too. So you can ask me anything, baby.
Bedsider.org has birth control information and a lot more. And it's...
Have you had sex in this car yet?
This is Richard Dawkins. Doing commercials is unfamiliar territory for me, but I'm inviting you to watch Road to Reason, a skeptic's guide to the 21st century, on Fairfax Public Access every Sunday. Each week the hosts tackle wishful thinking, religion, pseudoscience, and the harm they cause, with a combination of facts, humor, and community involvement. They challenge believers to defend their faith and give you, the skeptic, a voice. With live call-ins for viewers and streaming on the World Wide Web, there's never a dull moment. Don't wait. Look at them now on Facebook and YouTube, and remember to watch Road to Reason, a skeptic's guide to the 21st century, or there'll be hell to pay.
Looks like it's done.
Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. You can't see these microbes, but they might be there. So learn the right temperature to cook each type of meat. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions?
No, why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework.
Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review?
No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized.
I think I understand.
Oh, good.
French fries. Finding best potatoes.
No!
Russet. Fingerling. Yukon Gold.
Why don't you understand me?
Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Hi, and welcome back to Road to Reason, a skeptic's guide to the 21st century. I love those PSAs, man. I like the grammar.
They're great. They're so funny and witty, and
I don't know why
it's
they
hilarious.
don't put more of these on regular TV.
Right.
This is amazing. They're really good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so today we're running out of time, so we're going to go right to Chris Johnson. Chris, rather than me screwing up your intro and making you sound awful, I'll give you that job. Tell us about yourself. How did you come? How did you become to be sitting where you are? And what are your interests? And how long have you been doing this?
Well, basically, I wanted to add something new to the conversation we've been having nationally and internationally about atheism. I wanted to say, instead of just talking about what we don't believe, I wanted to talk about what we do believe. So I made this coffee table book of photographs of 100 atheists from around the world talking about issues of joy and meaning and purpose in their life. And then I turned the interviews I did for the book into a film version, and I've been traveling around showing that with groups around the world since May.
So, what's how have people received? Well, you put the book out first, and then you put the film. Has there been a difference in how it has been received?
The reaction so far has been really great, actually. And I think it gives atheists some reassurance and. They can see people in the book and in the film that they relate to, their experiences they can relate to. And for religious people, for theists, they can look at it and say, oh, this really changes my perception of what atheists are like. Because, I don't need to tell you that the perception of atheists, especially in the United States, is pretty bad. People think we eat babies and we're terrible people and how moral without God. This is something we encounter all the time. So, and I've had people come up to me, religious people, who say, well, I've learned more about atheists watching this film than I knew before this. So it is really changing how people think and what people think.
That's great. I mean, so just for our audience members, both the name of the book and the name of the movie, the documentary, is called A Better Life. Except with the book, it's 100 atheists speak out on joy and meaning in a world without God. And, I found, so I haven't read the book, but I did watch the documentary, and I really found it pretty profound because, yeah, as you said, it's a completely different twist on how the message is getting across about atheism. Very positive. I mean, that's the whole point. And how different, though, is the movie from the book? So I know that in the book you have about 100 atheists. In the movie, there's about 17. So why did you pick those 17 specifically for the movie? And why those people versus some of the others?
Yeah, film editing is such a difficult thing, right? So, in order to not have a 15-hour film, I couldn't have everybody from the book in the film. So it's just a matter of editing and figuring out which parts work best. And there's so much good material that just didn't make it into the final version. I'll have to release a second one at some point because there's so much there. And I think that they're very complementary, the book and the film, in that I think the book gives you kind of a great overview of these 100 people. And the film gets more in depth because there are fewer people. You get to spend more time on these 17 people and learn a little bit more than you would just reading the book, I think.
Okay. So before we move away from you, because I noticed how you started going away from you, I want to for you to talk about you. Let me ask you this. So I read in the internet where it's pure knowledge, of course, and it said that you were from Seattle, and then somewhere else it said that you were born in Texas. Somewhere else says that you're New York. What's the real truth here?
Okay, the real truth. I was born in Houston, Texas. That is correct. I moved to Seattle with my family when I was 3, though. So I grew up, most of my growing up was in Seattle. I went to college in Montreal at Concordia University in Montreal, Quebec. And then I moved to New York after graduating. So I've been in New York for 8 years now.
So everything was true.
I bet, yeah.
Everything was true.
Because it's the internet.
It's the internet. Everything's true in the internet.
And how long have you been a lifelong atheist, or were you raised a certain way, a religious,
My brother and I were raised in a very secular household. My dad is a liberal Christian, but we weren't really raised with much religion. We knew about Jesus and the Christian side of Christmas and that kind of thing, but it was more of, oh, this is what some people believe, and it wasn't like this is what ultimate truth is. So it wasn't until I went to college that I really began focusing on religion. I ended up minoring in religious studies because I just found it interesting. Oh, other people believe this. I didn't know about that. Oh, that's interesting stuff. So, and the more I studied religion, the more of a self-identified atheist I became. I've always been an atheist, but it wasn't until I studied religion that I adopted the label more seriously for myself.
So this is another personal question. Do you have a rich uncle, or did one of them die or something, that you inherited all this money to create this amazing movie? How did you raise the money from, what kind of uncle left you money for this movie?
It wasn't an uncle, actually. It was hundreds of people from around the world who saw value in this. I did a Kickstarter for the book almost 3 years ago, over 3 years ago now, and it was the first thing I'd ever done in atheism, and nobody knew who I was. And it was the second highest grossing publishing project that Kickstarter had ever done at that point.
Oh, wow.
All for a book about atheists. And then I did another Kickstarter for the film about a year and a half ago. So that's how I raised the money to do this project. I'm just a struggling artist by myself, so it's not like I have the resources to do it. But hundreds of people came forward and said, this is something we want to put money into and support.
Okay, and I assume that's how also you're getting to travel to all these places. If people want to have you in their city, they can contact you and bring you in and all of that to show screen the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, as I said before, right after this interview, I'm heading off to the airport. So I'm traveling, showing the film all over the world, and if groups want to have me, they can contact me.
Okay. Any planned trips to Saudi Arabia or, Bangladesh?
Yeah, you might not want to go to Bangladesh right now.
Yeah, no, I'm not going there anytime soon. But one of the places I went over the summer was down to Peru, which many people forget, one of the most religious countries in the world, 97% Catholic, and it was a standing room only, sold out screening down there of the film. This is something that was so needed down there. There were people that traveled 8 hours on a bus to come see this film down in Peru, and it really is changing the way that people think about atheists and the conversation we're having about atheism.
Wow, man! In Peru, you got that much praise. Oh, that's amazing. That's promising. That's hopeful. There's hope that even in a Catholic country like Peru, that people are. Did you have a lot of Christians show up to just to be there to see what the fanfare was about? Did you get any kind of criticism or heckling from those guys, or was it just purely you think just people just wanted to see your movie from the atheist side? Or?
There were a couple. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of Christians there, as far as I know, but there was no real heckling. Most of the reaction all over the world so far that I've gotten has been very positive, even from religious people. I was at a screening in Phoenix about a month ago, and a guy stood up during the Q&A and said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm a Christian. Actually, I'm a pastor. And I came here not knowing what this was. I wanted to learn more, and I've learned more about atheism in the past 90 minutes than I knew beforehand, and thank you for making a positive project, because all we see from the Christian perspective is atheists are angry, atheists are pissed off, atheists are upset, with good reason, I should add, in many cases. But at the same time, I think showing this positive side of atheism really gives people a landing place when they leave religion, to say, hey, this is something, this is a positive worldview, this can be a benefit to my life. It's not simply nihilism. It's not simply a void where there's nothing. I can find support, I can find love, I can find meaning, I can find value in life as an atheist.
So I mean that kind of brings me to the question of your audience. Who's your target audience? Because right now it seems to me, looking at some of your scheduled visits and all of that, it seems that a lot of it is preaching to the choir. In places like Peru, there's no choir, so it's preaching there comes out fine in that sense. But how do you go about making sure that the people that need it the most, the religious people, the pastors, the congregations, that they get to see, or at least have the opportunity to see your film?
Well, unfortunately, I don't really get invited to churches much. If they'll invite me, I will definitely go. But most of the places that I've been screening have been at atheist organizations, or humanist organizations, or secular organizations around the world. But I'd like to do more engagement with religious people, so they can see this project and see what they think of it, because I feel that, like you say, preaching to the choir, it's important for atheists to see that message too, to find that community and realize, oh, there are people like me out there who have diverse group of people. I do think it's important. I don't think it's just preaching to the choir and that it's a negative thing. I think that's important. But also I'd like more dialogue with religious people over a film like this.
Right, and I think even though this is more, if it's more atheists see this movie, I think going back to the talk we were talking about before is that the atheists, the angry atheists, okay, that that whole movement started, back right after 9/11 with the typical, the Four Horsemen with Dennett, Dawkins, and Hitchens, and Sam Harris, and all those, and it started as an angry response to things like 9/11 and Muslim extremism, and then the melding of church and state that we're seeing, the Christian right, into politics and all that, and that got a lot of people very angry, and I think that was a kind of a response. The New Atheism movement was a response. Within that response, we kind of sort of got lost about what it really means to be an atheist. I mean, we were so focused on bashing religion and bashing this and being angry at that I guess we totally did forget, well, what do we do if we don't have religion? And I think your book and your movie really showcased that atheists aren't they're not all angry, not all of us. And I think we're seeing a shift in the movement. So I think.
I think that.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I think it's not necessarily a binary thing. It's not an either or. It's not that we have to be either angry or positive all the time. I mean, I think that there's a good balance that you can strike, and so there are definitely issues out there and situations where anger is important and called for, and things we need to call out. I mean, like you talked earlier on your show about these bloggers in Bangladesh. There's some serious things going on around the world that we need to stand up and say, this is terrible. Unacceptable. We need to be able to criticize religion in these places. And at the same time, on these other things, say we can also provide these positive messages as well. So we can do both. It's not like we have to choose one or the other.
Right.
I think both conversations are really important. It's important that we do both of them.
It's a multifaceted approach. I've always said. I mean, we need both. We
don't need the black and white.
Which is interesting because later on this month we're inviting David Silverman to come on our show to talk about his new book, Fighting God, which is complete opposite, I think. And he defends firebrand atheism, and he defends the kind of the pit bull, and he's very good at it. But I think we need both. We need people like David Silverman. We need people like you to kind of present both sides.
And it's like anything. I mean, in the religious side, you have also the extreme in one side and the extreme in the other. You have from some people that don't even call themselves religious, like Unitarians, and you have your Pentecostals, for instance, in the other side. So I think everyone is needed in this secular movement. And that's I think you bring in that level of a question that is often not addressed in a big way. So I have another question. I am sure from looking at the film that there's lots and lots of things that ended up in the cutting floor. Are there plans to pick them up from the floor and make a second movie, or offer it with DVDs or some other way of making it so people can get it?
And to add to that question, how many people did you actually interview for the movie? I know 17 made it into, but how many people did you actually interview that didn't make it in the movie?
Well, it was 100 people I interviewed for the book. So,
right.
So 100 people I interviewed. There is so much great footage, and hopefully I'd like to do something with that. It all depends on time and funding. If that can happen at some point down the road, that would be great. We'll just have to see what happens and where this film goes and how well it does and all that stuff.
So do you have any other projects lined up besides promoting, your book and your movie right now? Do you have any other ideas for another, documentary or something regarding atheism or secularism or anything like that, or are you just focusing on this right now?
Right now, I'm just focusing on this. I'm traveling all over the world, showing the film and talking about these issues. And for me, right now, that's my sole thing. My full-time job, basically. So that's what I'm doing.
Now, this is not your first film. You've done a couple of other smaller films before. Am I right?
I've worked on some films after college, but this is my first feature film. Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So I'm sure this has been a very good learning experience, especially that documentaries are very different than other kinds of movies. What are some of those lessons that you have learned in doing this? What would you do different? How would your approach be different if you were to do this again, knowing all the things that you know today?
It was a really interesting exercise in using footage that I already had, because it was made up of these interviews that I had already done for the most part. Forming a kind of thread throughout all of them, that's the hardest part of something like this. And I think if I were to start something from scratch to do it, it would probably be a lot easier. But it's good and bad in that, I had most of the footage already there, but at the same time, putting it all together, that's the hard part. So it's 9 months of solid editing to put this film together.
Yeah, because I know there are some people that are producing documentaries today that they're listening to this. They want to know, what pitfalls should I avoid? What do I need to watch out for to make sure that I don't, I don't screw up or lose a lot of money or basically have the whole project fail? Any big thing like that we're saying, that you would say, oh, just be careful about this one thing?
Oh, that's a tough one. Probably things like, just try to budget as much as you can. I think that's, for any creative project, that's the pitfall I think that many people fall into, is just things get over budget, and that can happen very, very easily. But for me, the film at least was completely on budget. So.
Good. No, so you stay within budget. That's hard to do because it's
a miracle worker.
Yeah. Well, these projects are very, there's a lot of passion involved. It's you're putting out there a piece of who you are essentially for the world to see. So it's people pick subjects that they're passionate about. So yeah, I can see how easily over budget you can, because you want to put everything in there, and cutting things out. It's like, oh, which one do I cut? Which one do I keep? So I get to stay within budget. That's pretty phenomenal. So.
Now, are you planning to eventually put this film online for people to get, Netflix or something along those lines? I don't know enough about that industry to know what the process would be to make the film available to the masses.
Well, it is online actually. So not on Netflix, but it is available for people who want to see it.
Okay. So we'll get a link in our website for where people can go look at the film if they're interested, because I think there are a lot of people that are intrigued, and your schedule seems very tough. By the time you make it to come back from Europe, if you come back, we may people would had forgotten about it. So you want people to see the film now, and best of all, I think we need to ask people that when they watch the film, recommend it to their religious friends or people that have asked them. So the film answers a question, a very fundamental question that sometimes atheists can't answer. Right. How does your life have meaning if you have no belief in God? Because we've been trained since little kids, brainwashed to be told that without God, there's no meaning in life, and that is absurd. And so this film clearly denotes that that's not the case, with very prominent, very good people that speak really well.
Yeah, I really, one of my favorite interviewees was Patricia Churchland, a neurophilosopher and neuroethicist. I thought that was wonderful, so I'm glad you didn't cut her out. She's definitely one of my favorites. But
so I'm going to put you on the spot now. With a tough question. As you know, I represent Hispanic American free thinkers. I'm the founder of the organization, and so I want to share with you that 16% of the U.S. population, almost 17%, are Hispanic. But in the film, I didn't see any Hispanics and I didn't see any Asians. Why?
Well, it's tough in a film like this to kind of get all your bases covered. I have representation of those groups in the book. It's just a difficult thing when you're putting a film like this together to kind of cover all your bases like that. So I wish it had been different, but it is at least covered in the book.
All right, so kind of related to that. I don't know. Again, I haven't seen the book, but I have seen the film, so I'm talking about the film. I think missing from the film, big time, is Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and Hersey.
Some of the other, yeah,
some of the big names. Was that done? I mean, some people have taken the guess that maybe they didn't approve of the book. I mean, of the film. That maybe they didn't approve of the project. Can you put that rumor to rest and sort of explain why these luminaries of free thought that we've had in the last decade were not part of this? Although Dennett was. I mean, Dennett is, of course, in that link.
Yeah, well, as far as I know, Richard Dawkins left the book, and I did interview him. But I mean, like the 84 people who didn't make it into the film book, it's just one of those things about editing. And I know also that Richard has a movie he did with Krauss. With Lawrence Krauss, who's also in the book, by the way. So I didn't feel like not having him in there was lacking because he has his own film as well. So I didn't feel like it was necessary to have him in. But it wasn't a deliberate thing on my part. Hopefully he likes the film. I don't know if he's seen it or not yet, but I hope he likes it. And it's just time-wise, just to make it in.
So how was that targeted? I mean, how did you select the people that you selected? Because I mean, I think you got a great, amazing people there. How did you go about selecting those people? Some I know, of course, and some I didn't know. So how did you go pick those people specifically?
Yeah, and to kind of add to that, how did you find a lot of these people? I mean, I know some of the bigger names, sure, but some of these others, like I forget the gentleman's name, the rock climber, and the art history. I mean, how did you find these people? Like, was it social media because they seem to be just regular people, just given their
they speak.
Yeah, and they speak very well, and then it was.
Well, a variety of factors, really. Some I knew in real life. Helen, the art historian at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, is a friend of mine here in New York, and some other. Like Alex Hummel, you mentioned, the rock climber. I just saw him on 60 Minutes one day. There was a great piece on 60 Minutes about him, and I thought, wow, if he's an atheist, I really have to get him for my book that I'm doing. And so I contacted him, and he was an atheist, and he's been really enthusiastic about the whole project. So it's just a variety of ways that I've found people for the book and the film.
Interesting.
So which one would you say, I know you want to recommend both, they're both like children, you can't pick children,
Your favorites.
But is your educational background in writing or in film industry?
My education is in film, so I have a degree in film production and then a minor in religious studies.
So does that mean that your favorite child is the film? Did you get that?
Yeah.
It's so hard to pick. Like I'm really proud of both of them. I know it's hard to you can't pick your favorite, but I am very happy with the film. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. So who was the toughest person that you had to interview, or was there somebody more difficult than others as far as getting them to kind of open up? Was there anybody that gave you a little bit more troubles than others?
Well, I think people that you've read for years, like. Richard Dawkins or Dan Dennett or Pat or some people that you have certain expectations. I'm nervous of interviewing that because you build them up in your mind. But people are just people, right? And so as doing an interview show, once you get started talking people, I'm just a person. So people relax and it's easy to talk to people after a while.
Well, yeah, I noticed that, and I'm not really sure, out of the 100 people, are you one of them? Because I know in the film you are part of the film. You are in the film, you are one of the people in the film. But I thought it was a little bit wrong of you not to answer the same questions that you were asking the people.
So what gives you meaning?
So we want to take this opportunity to ask you, what gives meaning to your life? How can you as a non-believer, without believing in a deity, have meaning in your life?
Nobody has ever asked me that before, so I'm thrilled to, for the first time, be answering.
On Road to Reason. Exclusive.
I get meaning and joy out of doing this work, out of traveling around and meeting people from all over the world and having something that I've created, the book and the film, resonate and touch people. I get emails from people all the time who say, thank you so much for doing this. I thought I was the only one. I didn't know how to answer these questions. I was looking for community and looking for support after I left religion. And thank you for making something beautiful and that really resonates with me. And so just getting those emails, doing the work that I do, I'm so lucky to be able to do this, to be able to have these conversations and meet people from all over. I mean, it really means a lot to me. So at the moment, that's where I get a lot of my happiness from. It's just traveling and having these conversations and having created something that people really enjoy. That means a lot to me.
Has everyone in your family seen the film? Your cousins, your brothers, everybody have seen the film and they all give it a thumbs up?
Yeah. Everybody that I know in my family has seen the film so far, and they've really liked it. And I've had family come to screenings. Just the other day, I did a screening in Michigan, and I had an aunt and a cousin who came to that one. I had cousins come to a screening in San Francisco. So it's great to be able to not only travel and do the screenings, but I have family and friends show up in each of the events. So that's always nice.
And that's great to have family support and friend support when you do something like this. So that's good. That worked out that way. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so I think this film would be amazing if it had like every possible subtitle language there is. If people want to help you out in translating it to Arabic or Urdu or Japanese or all these other languages, how do they go about if they have the talent to do this? And how do they do about it?
That would be great. I have, I have English subtitles, but I also have them in Chinese and in Spanish. But those are the only 3 languages I have subtitles in at the moment. If people want to do other subtitles, they can always send me an email and contact me via my website.
So English subtitles for hard of hearing or
impaired?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. So I wasn't sure. I thought, well, it's already in English.
Right.
But it's my lack of sensitivity
there
for
you go. See, there you go.
All right, so you currently have it in those 3 languages, and you will welcome people helping out. So in a way, this film is a community. Is a community work. I mean, you got funding from
the community.
The community is having you go around showing it, and
the community was interviewed, and now the community is helping you out with translating it, and so that's great. I mean, that's
it sounds to me like he's ready to run for office. I mean, it's
I'm
a community builder.
Nobody will elect me.
Well, we're always looking for that first atheist that makes it to the presidency.
Yeah.
And
maybe one day. 50 years.
There you go.
So I have a question about the movie. You seem to latch on to White Sands, and it's a great, wonderful. I mean, it's beautiful. Why that place specifically as opposed to someplace like the Grand Canyon or some other beautiful spot? What drew you to White Sands specifically?
Well, White Sands really resonated with me because that's where the idea for the book started.
Okay.
And I was in White Sands when my brother said to me, you really should do a photography book. And I said, well, nobody knows who I am. Nobody cares. There's so many photography books out there. Why would anybody be interested in me? And he said to me, well, you just have to think of a way to make it different. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, what if somebody made a book of smiling, happy, beautiful, lovely atheists? And instead of being an intellectual thing, what if it was just beautiful pictures, beautiful people, and talking about positive things in life? So that's why White Sands really resonated with me in terms of the book and the film. It's also just an incredible place, and just being in that space and thinking about these ideas of religion and atheism is really what started this whole thing. So
it seemed like a very awe-inspiring kind of place to be. And I liked how in the movie there was that somebody had written Jesus on the sand, and then the wind just wiped it out. Like nature just took care of that.
And I think that's the big. I mean, there was another scene where you're near the ocean and the mountains for the climber. There are a lot of very inspiring scenes where people tend to say, oh, this shows me that God is awesome.
Right.
When instead you're saying, this shows me that nature is awesome and is more awesome than any other book, than any other thing humans can imagine. So I thought it was very appropriate to have those scenes in there and be able to share that with people that usually get inspired that way.
Exactly. It was a wonderful way to kind of take back, the beautiful, nature and what it is, and kind of apply it to a humanist perspective, as opposed to it being, say, oh, this is proof of God exists. This is what we hear all the time. So
now we do have.
And actually, because I don't.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, no, I was just going to say that I think that those intellectual arguments, people see beauty in nature and think there must be a God. I think that's often why people believe in God in the first place. We as atheists spend so much of our time debunking the intellectual arguments for the existence of God, when I don't think that very many people actually believe in God because of those arguments, right? So I don't think anybody hears the Kalam cosmological argument, thinks, oh, well, I believe in God now.
Right.
People believe in God for these emotional reasons. And so I think by addressing these emotional reasons, I think we really help our case a lot more than if we simply just tear down reasons that people don't even believe in anyway.
Yes, and that's very true. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what kind of evidence or facts or debunking of apologetics you do. At the end of the day, people are faithful because of the emotional.
And those arguments are always used as an afterthought. All right, I believe this now. How do I go about proving it? And that's why they don't work, because they're trying to prove something that is not. So I have another question, and this may give you some idea for your next project. And if it does, then I want you to give me credit for it. Okay? So this film and a lot of the books and a lot of the things that we see out there seem to be geared for the adult. But I think that not enough things are being done for the young adult or for the teenager, for instance. I got to tell you, this film, I don't think a teenager that is 13, 14 years old or 15 is going to sit there and watch the entire film, because it's a whole generational thing. It's attention span and all of that. I'd like you to consider, or what are your thoughts about having something similar, addressing different aspects? So this was one aspect that you addressed. One that young people, children especially, have a hard time dealing with is death. And how death, there's no heaven, and so therefore I'm going to die, I'm going to be scared, and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of ink that has been spilled over this topic at the adult level. But I think if we were to concentrate a little bit more on the teenagers and a little bit more on the children with something like this, using that emotional approach along with the explanation, what do you think? Would that be something that would work, or what are your thoughts about something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really do think that's something that hasn't really been addressed well, especially for kids and teenagers. So you're right. We need to do something to kind of fill that gap. It's one of the reasons why I did this project in the first place, is because nobody had done anything like it before. So just like for that, somebody needs to do it, because you're right. I mean, that's a topic that people just don't really talk about for kids.
Well, I have this friend, Chris, who is a movie maker, so he might be interested in thinking about that as he travels through, what do you got, like 8-9 hours of air flight in the next few hours? Get a pen and a pencil.
Start finding kids to interview, 100 atheist kids. Be
careful, though. Be careful with the kids. You don't want it to think you're a priest chasing the kids. Sorry, that was uncalled for. Do you have another question?
I just want to remind everybody, the book is called, I'm drawing a blank. Better Life, and 100 Atheists Speak Out on Joy Meaning in a World Without God. I really want our audience and anybody who's watching out there to really watch the movie and read the book, because it really gives a much needed perspective from intellectuals and others alike. And that's what I liked about the movie. It had everyone from like various levels of education, various levels of the different perspectives of life, but they all came together in a very nice way in presenting their what gives them meaning.
And Larry,
hold on, what's going on?
This is God.
We have God joining us.
Have Almighty.
Thy Lord God.
Hello, God.
Who does this guy think he is? Kirk Cameron of atheism?
Well,
God, I would not insult.
I would say he's a lot better. Yeah, because please.
All right, you have a point.
Well, I really like the fact that there are two different media: the movie and the because for me the book is something I haven't gone through the entire book, but I've sat down and paged through it a bit, and it's the kind of book that you could kind of forget in your house at the coffee table. It's a nice coffee table book, gorgeous, amazing pictures, nice size, big book, and without saying religion is bad, without accusing the believers of being idiots for believing in supernatural stuff. It's not about them, it's about us. It's about our people and our things. So I think it's an amazing, it's an approach that we rarely see.
Yeah, and we haven't seen it. As you said, nobody's ever done this before. So this can open up a lot of conversation that has never been open this way before, and actually can break down the communication barriers that we're seeing. I've been working a little bit with, I don't know if you're familiar with Peter Boghossian and his street epistemology, and it kind of takes a different approach to having conversation with believers. And I think this is where I think the movement's headed that way with your book and Peter Boghossian's method of discussion and critical thinking. So that's I think
it's an approach that is novel
it's new. It's great. So I really do hope that you think about doing some more projects.
The next step. Don't sleep on your laurels, man.
Yeah, you seem to have a knack and a talent for this stuff. That's
and
really good.
you've seen so this is before you were famous, like you said, before people know who you are, and I don't know people that are as busy as you are. I mean, looking at your schedule everywhere you've been. Yeah. So this is without people knowing you. Once you build that reputation and people know you, and your next project comes on, I think that's going to be an even better stuff, especially if you continue along the same lines. It's not about them, it's about us. And giving people, especially religious people and politicians, a greater understanding of who we are without making assumptions that we eat babies and that we're nasty, bad people.
We don't do that anymore.
Not anymore. Vegetarian now.
Yeah, we're vegetarians. But so you said you're going to Europe, and then you're going to go to, I think you said, Guatemala, right? And these are all...
I'm going to Guatemala in February, and Florida at the end of December.
Okay, good. So these are all sponsored trips from the atheist group. So if anybody's out near this area, check out your local atheist group on meetup.com, and you can see Chris. I know you've been up in D.C. or in Richmond, which I was going to come to see you then, but I couldn't make it, unfortunately. But if you guys are out near where he is, one of these events, check out.
You'll enjoy the show if you go see him. All right, that's all. We want to say thank you for being with us today. Really appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you again, and have a safe trip tonight and over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we're going to wrap things up. We have about 30 seconds left, actually about 15 seconds left. So I want to tell our audience that thanks for watching Road to Reason. Check us out on Facebook and on YouTube. Just Google Road to Reason. We're there. And we have some great shows coming up. Dave Silverman's going to be on. We got Andy Thompson coming. We got a lot of good guests. So thank you for watching.
Thank you.